Oh shit. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of the Meta Call. This is just going to be a VGC podcast about any and all things VGC related. The reason for this podcast is because VGC needs a podcast. It's kind of crazy to me because every other major gaming community has a podcast already. Even ones that, don't really have a need for a podcast. And I think Pokemon's a game that, more so than other games, benefits from being talked about, from being shared, whether that's strategies or whether that's, talking about the way tournaments are run. Literally everything about Pokemon is changed for the better when you talk about it, when it's a topic of discussion. And I think that's something that the VGC community is well and truly lacking in right now. I mean, most of the major issues in VGC are brought up on Twitter currently, which is just fucking stupid, to say the least. It turns everything into drama. Everybody's bitching at each other. It really is not a grown-up way to handle the issues in the VGC community. And I think a podcast is a great way to do that. I think if we want to actually see things change for the better, we need to, we need a forum of discussion where you can actually make elaborate points and, discuss ideas fully and come to a conclusion on things, or come to at least an understanding on things. And so that's part of what this podcast is. Even if it isn't my podcast that blows up and becomes popular, hopefully this will inspire some more well-known player to start his or her own podcast, and then, help grow and mature the community that way. So that's sort of the idea behind the podcast. As for this episode itself, I kind of forgot to do this, but I want to wrap up each episode by posing the question, what is the up-and-coming meta call? Meaning, what should be used that isn't being used, or what do you think is good that nobody else is using? And for this episode, I have to say it's Buzzwole. It's a Pokemon that, well, first of all, I'm making a video on that. So if you want to learn about Buzzwole in more detail, definitely go check that out. That'll be up very soon. And there I'll just be talking about the sets you should run on it and how it plays and things like that. But Buzzwole really is, at the very least, an underexplored Pokemon in VGC 17. I mean, just the list of physical attackers that this thing can take on 1v1 is staggering. I mean, just scroll down the list on Showdown of all the VGC legal Pokemon that are physical attackers, and you'll be hard-pressed to find ones that you don't beat. I mean, I'll do it right now. Kartana, you beat. Gyarados, you beat. Pheromosa, you beat. Gigalith, you beat. Garchomp, you beat. Bulu, you beat. Mudsdale, you beat. Hariyama, you beat. I mean, again, just scroll down the list and you'll be hard-pressed to find ones that you don't beat. I mean, as long as you have a relatively decent type matchup, you're golden. You're good. And then with an Assault Vest attached, the list of things it beats just gets so much longer. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say it sometimes does just win games on its own. And I've brought it in pretty much every polished team I've had this format, and many of my tournament losses just came down to not bringing it when I should have. It really is that good on the right team. It truly is a criminally undervalued Pokemon. And while it has its fair share of problems, and I wouldn't put it, S tier by any stretch of the imagination, it truly is a great Pokemon, and I think it'll start to see use in the near future. So with all that said, I hope you guys enjoy. VGC 17 is so weird. It's really weird. It's a lot different than any other VGC meta I've ever seen. Because at the beginning of the meta, and now This is true of any meta that's ever been played. There's always the shiny new toy syndrome, as it's called, where people, they gravitate towards what there's a few select Pokemon that get super, super hyped. There's a few Pokemon that are just spammed incessantly at the very beginning. And you guys know this if you played VGC. This meta, it was... I want to say it's Tapu Koko, but Tapu Koko didn't really disappear. But VGC is different because not only did the shiny new toy syndrome not really disappear, the entire meta evolved. It's very different. Like, I can only really think of singles examples for the shiny new toy syndrome because, like, in early Gen 4 OU, take Electivire, take Porygon Z, everybody used the shit out of those Pokemon when they were announced because Porygon Z was the first Pokemon that could OHKO Blissey with a special move after one turn of setup. Like, wow, that's insane. But eventually, that kind of slowed down, and then people started to use more consistent and reliable things. That didn't happen in VGC 17 because, like, it was kind of funny because a lot of people were freaking out about there being a Big Six already. I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was... I remember most of them. It was Koko, Chomp. Let's see. Koko, Chomp. Sorry, I'm typing it in here on Showdown. Koko, Chomp. Celesteela. Gyarados. What was the last Pokemon? Porygon 2 I know is kind of a filler slot. Sometimes people replaced it with Lele or other things. But like we were coming out of a meta that really did have this one team that was, not impossible to beat, but definitely a cut above most other teams. And so it was funny to see the, in air quotes, Big Six come out so early, only to have it completely shit on, because this is so much more of an open, like, any meta is going to be more open than VGC 16 for the most part. But it was really funny to see people still try to take that mindset into a meta that, and we have a few threats that are super centralizing, but for the most part, it's relatively balanced. But VGC 17, again, is really, really interesting because, we had all these, standard threats, as it were. Like, Celesteela was basically on every team for a while. If it wasn't on a team, you had to have very, very solid answers to it. It's the whole reason why Marowak was good, because you could, Marowak is one of the better ways to support Celesteela and also kill opposing Celesteela. But that whole thing changed. People realized that Celesteela was way too passive, or, a lot of people had different opinions on it, and I think they still do. But my opinion on Celesteela was always that it was way too passive. So, like, yeah, early game it could throw out heavy slams and deal some decent damage. But unless if you had Intimidate on your side or you had some other form of damage control, it really wasn't hard to make Celesteela feel like it was just sitting there. So, while it's absolutely insane in the end game, like, nobody's denying that, it's still very good in the end game. I definitely think people started to, it's pretty clear what happened. Things like AFK came out. And even there's so much to talk about with VGC 17 because AFK actually stabilized the meta a little bit. I don't know if people realize, like, once AFK came out, that became the most common core. AFK is Arcanine Feeny Kartana, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about. But once that core came out, obviously there's still a bunch of other stuff that's being used. But once those three started to be used together, also the innovation of Assault Vest Kartana was a big reason for that. Pretty much every Kartana pre the new year was Sash until some math major figured out that you can make Kartana relatively bulky. But yeah, once Arcanine Feeny Kartana came out, that's actually, like, I don't want to get into it quite yet because I gotta finish this thought. But it's definitely very interesting that Arcanine is basically considered the best Pokemon right now. And not because it's like overpowered or anything. Just that a random fire type with Intimidate rose to the top just because of, I guess, how good it fits into the meta. I honestly don't understand it that much. But yeah, once AFK came out, everyone was using it. Not everybody, but it definitely is a very dominant core even today. But now we're starting to see, now we're finally getting into that phase again. Like, we had AFK for probably a month, which for VGC 17 is pretty, it's the longest we've ever had any consistently dominant strategy, which I don't even know if I can call it a dominant strategy, because even though it showed up a lot in tournaments, it didn't actually win any. I don't think Feeney has actually taken a championship yet, which is super weird. By the way, I totally called Feeney being good from day one. I'm putting that out there now. I've a bunch of people, everyone gravitated towards Coco. Everyone gravitated towards Lele and Bulu. I'm like, Feeney's gonna rise for sure. I called it. Now, I didn't expect it to be S rank, like people consider it now, but I definitely called Feeney. I had to put that out there, but sorry, I'm going off in a million different tangents. You're probably gonna have to get used to that with this podcast, because my brain does not work linearly anymore. But yeah, once AFK came out, that stabilized the meta for a while, and now we've got a bunch of weird stuff coming in. Now we've got Driftblim with Seed as in Psychic Seed or Misty Seed usually, which is kind of odd to me, because with the Seed and Unburden activated, it's probably the most reliable Tailwind setter. I'll 100% give it that. You can't fake it out. You'd have to basically prankster taunt it to outspeed it, or you'd have to even then, a lot of Driftblims run Psychic Seed, so you would have to overwrite terrain and prankster taunt it on the same turn in order to prevent it from setting Tailwind. But it's really odd to me, because I'm not sure what all else it does. The Psychic Seed set has access to Will-O-Wisp. That's always cool, right? Burning fast things like Kartana. I think that's part of it. I think Driftblim has a decent matchup versus Kartana, which is part of why. It doesn't really beat Kartana on its own. That's kind of the thing. It can Will-O-Wisp it on the Psychic Seed set, which makes it a decent check to it, but Driftblim's not really a Pokemon that switches in and out. It's not a Pokemon that, you want to lead with it and get your terrain up so that you can activate Seed, and then basically just set Tailwind until you die. Burn things if you have Psychic Seed, or slightly touch things with Shadow Ball or Acrobatics. I don't know. I don't really understand what Driftblim does. I've seen it use different things, right? A couple different things. It's used Destiny Bond against me, which I think is good, but again, it's not something I really understand, because there's not a lot that hits it hard enough on the special side to really, it's not super, super frail like a lot of other things that would Destiny Bond are. It's not it's not like Sharpedo. What else does this thing do? I've seen Fast Disable, which I actually kind of like that strategy. Fast Disable, I feel like I wrote about this a little bit on my blog, but Disable is definitely a very, very underutilized and very, very good move. But at the same time, you kind of want to combo it with stuff. You kind of want to, not really taunt, but you kind of want to Encore first, or you kind of want to, at the very least, Protect. I have not seen many Driftblim with Protect, and now maybe that's just because, they don't really use it against me. But I feel I don't know. I really don't know with Driftblim, because I don't know what the standard is, or even if there is a standard. Because again, it gets access to a few cool things, it gets Clear Smog, which, can shit on EV teams, I guess. Or it can Haze, or it can I guess it can disable things or destiny bond. Like, I don't really know, aside from being a super reliable Tailwind setter, what makes Driftblim so good. Because it's clearly good, right? I've messed with it a little bit, and it's good at what it does, right? It's really good at setting Tailwind. But I can't imagine, like, Murkrow's good at setting Tailwind. So I don't know why, I don't know what makes Driftblim better than other things like, Whimsicott, for example. I mean, I'm literally scrolling down the list here. Like, I kind of thought it was the flare boost thing. I guess I knew that it was unburdened because that's, speed is so important on things that want to set Tailwind that it made sense to me that unburden was the play, but I kind of thought flare boost would have some sort of place. Like, I thought when I started seeing Driftblim all over the place, I was like, maybe it's because, Will-O-Wisp and Hex can kill stuff, and it can, actually. I did some calcs, and it's pretty impressive. But, I don't know. It can Memento, I guess. Does it even get that right now? I think it does. It gets okay coverage options, right? It can probably HP Fire Kartana. That's actually probably pretty important. It's one of the few things that's faster than Scarf Kartana, so... Actually, that alone I could kind of see making it decent, but... Then what's your set? Your set is Tailwind, HP Fire, or... I don't think Shadow Ball would kill, normally. I know it does on Flare Boost. Does HP Fire even kill Assault Vest variants? That's something to look up. And then you've got your options between Clear Smog and... I don't know, I can't imagine, like... The thing is, there's not like a cohesive 4-move set for Driftblim. Like, it's got a bunch of cool tools, but they don't necessarily... Like, they're just kind of like... It's kind of like random sizes of screwdrivers. Like, it's not a complete screwdriver set, if that makes sense. Like, you don't have a hammer with it. You don't have, wrenches and fucking drills with it. All you've got is just these random sizes of screwdrivers, which is useful in some situations, but not at all. That was kind of a terrible analogy, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying. But yeah, Driftblim's definitely a weird innovation. I mean, we could talk forever about all the things that were at the Onog tournament. I mean, Shoma, just a complete fucking madman with his, with Magnet Rise Magnezone. That's so, like, I really liked the Driftblim Lele core just because of how, first of all, how terrifying Specs Lele is in Tailwind, and also because he ran so much bulk on it. Like, I've actually had that idea. I've had that super bulky Lele set, basically identical to his, just kind of sitting there in my list of sets that I need to find a use for but haven't yet. And I'm glad he, like, validated it for me. It was just, like... It never occurred to me to try to, religiously set Tailwind on it. Because, there's not that many reliable Tailwind setters. I don't know. Like, why Driftblim over Whimsicott? That's my question. I know it can't be faked out. I know it's actually got decent bulk with the seed. But it's not really, like... Once you set Tailwind, it's not really taking advantage of it because it's just kind of, sitting there. I guess burning stuff with Psychic Seed is really cool, but I feel like Psychic Seed isn't even the most common one. I feel like people use Misty Seed more often. I don't know. Super weird to me. I mean, the recent uptick in Gyarados is really interesting as well, but I don't want to go too deep into that because I want to keep on the Onog thing. But fucking A-Drive. Holy shit. I mean, first of all, I know I said this on stream, but I don't really like A-Drive that much. He doesn't like, and it's not because he's a terrible person. It's not like I don't want to go into that. It just was super weird to me how he's not that into VGC. Like, he took down Wolf, And not just because he hacked Wolf out, he made reads on Wolf. It was insane to see. Like, I have a certain respect for A Drive now just because of how good his reads were. Like, that's the thing. You just don't get reads on Wolf. That doesn't happen. I saw this video on Twitter where, and I forget I can't remember how he did it, but basically Wolf had his Kyogre out. This was in VGC 2016. He had his Kyogre out, and then somehow he had his Kyogre out, and then they sent their Groudon out and got Sun Up, and his Rayquaza was like going to die. So he switched out his Rayquaza to let his Hitmontop take the E-Speed, eject buttoned back into Rayquaza, and then Water Spouted the same turn and killed off the Groudon. Like, it was insane to see. Wolf made these plays that were like 8 turns in advance. Like, Wolf's a chess player. Wolf's this visionary of a player. And then Dan A Drive Clap fucking hid Ice Fang until like the last turn it mattered, and then Ice Fanged Wolf's Exeggutor to death. That was crazy for me to see. And as far as I'm aware, he's just a shiny hunter. Isn't that true? I don't remember if he was a singles player or something, but as far as I know, he was just a shiny hunter before this, and then he just broke onto VGC this year and then took down not just Wolf. I can't even remember who else he beat. I think he beat Cybertron. Who else did he beat? He didn't beat Ogloza. I think it was Cybertron. Basically, Dan took down two of the biggest and well-known players in VGC in not a hacksy way. He didn't flinch either of them to death. In fact, he actually got some pretty bad luck himself in a lot of turns. Like, I don't know. There was a lot of people in chat saying that it was some sort of like people were telling him what to do. There's like somebody helping him because they had the mics muted on the players. And it's like, that probably wasn't the case. Like, it seems pretty far-fetched that they would rig a tournament like this, but it definitely, like, I can understand the sentiment just because of how explosive those plays were. It really was a sight to see. Because the other thing too, Wolf lives doing VGC. Cybertron lives doing VGC. That is what they do. That is who they are. They have history in VGC. I think like Wolf's been playing about as long as I have, and Cybertron's been playing even longer. They've been playing years in VGC. And then this dude who just barely came in knows... I don't know what he knows about VGC. He can't have been paying that much of attention before, because he would have been known for it, right? He would have talked about it. He would have at least given half a fuck about VGC before now. I don't know. I don't want to talk shit about A Drive because he's probably a great dude, right? He's one of those people that irks me for no particular reason. Like, I don't have a reason for disliking him. So, I don't want to talk shit about him because he's probably a great dude, right? It's just, I understand where, like, and I don't think this is the case. I don't think they rigged the tournament. I just understand what people were saying. Like, there were some people that I think honestly thought at least somebody was telling A Drive what to do. And then he was just basically pushing buttons. But that was very, very weird to me. Just how well he did. And I don't think I'm the only one with that sentiment either. I think a ton of people were really surprised at how well A Drive did. And also, he had a good team, right? I'm looking at his team right now. He had Togedemaru, Air Balloon Togedemaru, mind you. Air Balloon Togedemaru, Specs Fini, what's this Arcanine set here? Arcanine with Life Orb, actually. That was kind of interesting. Specs Fini, as I said, Scarf Chomp, and then just kind of standard Muck with Taunt, which was kind of an interesting little tech there. And then just, kind of standard Watery MZ, Dragon Dance Gyarados. That was a sight to see. I've been watching a lot of VGC, and I have been for a long time, and I've never seen anything like that. Also, let's talk about Sajan's team. Oh my God, do I love that team. That team is so, like, Sajan's team embodies everything I love about VGC. Like, not everything, but if so, like, let me just go down the list for you. All right, he has pretty standard Life Orb Pheromosa. Life Orb is fairly uncommon on Pheromosa to begin with, but he's just got Naive with High Jump Kick, Poison Jab, Ice Beam, Protect. So fairly standard Pheromosa. And then we get to his Weakness Policy Metagross and Assault Vest Gudra. Now, those don't sound too crazy on their own, but he had Bulldoze, Assault Vest Gudra, like, led with Weakness Policy Metagross to bulldoze his own Metagross, not get a speed drop from Clear Body, while also speed dropping the opponents and activating his Weakness Policy. I shat bricks when I saw that. That was the thing I love about that is how much it gets done in one turn. Like, we were talking about this in my Discord, and you can actually outspeed Coco with Jolly Metagross. He wasn't running Jolly Metagross, he's running Adamant and, like, I think it was like 180 speed. But you can outspeed most things with Metagross after a Bulldoze. Like, he's not in the best speed tier. He doesn't, like 130 is kind of the speed tier you shoot for when you want to either Scarf or get the -1 from things like Icy Wind. But that play, and he also had agility on it, I should say. That play, that tech is so awesome especially because his Gudra is actually faster. It's so well orchestrated because his Gudra is faster. Like, it has enough speed to outspeed Metagross while still having the bulk it needs to be functional as, like, a defensive switch in, while also having modest and 76 special attack, which I think I can't remember exactly what that 2-hit KOs. I checked out the spread after and I shat bricks because that was, like, my exact, like, I found that sweet spot in special attack. But it was so perfectly orchestrated, especially because, like, when you see Gudra, you don't expect that. That's just so... I love that tech because of how much it accomplishes in a single turn. Especially because he activates his Weakness Policy and then gets Metagross to attack. I don't know. I loved the shit out of that. And then he's got Lele, which is just standard Psyche MZ for the most part, which is cool. That's fine. He's got pretty standard Alolan Ninetales, which he didn't actually bring, but it's Blizzard, Icy Wind, Aurora Veil. So basically Icy Wind over, Freeze Dry, which I guess is the standard. And then Arcanine. The thing I love about Sajan's team, in addition to the Gudra and Metagross team, is how many different good lead options he has. Like, Lele basically can be led with every member of his team, right? So he's got Metagross, Gudra, Pheromosa, Arcanine, and Ninetales. And literally every one of those, except for Gudra, and maybe even Gudra, I don't know. Literally every one of those has lead synergy with Lele, right? Metagross can take advantage of Psychic Terrain and also, has the whole Fairy Steel thing going, so you can't really hit them both with the same move. Other than things like Earthquake, but whatever. He's got Lele Pheromosa, which you all know is terrifying to face. Lele Arcanine, which I've been talking about this a while in my Discord too. Lele Arcanine is extremely good in the lead position. I mean, it's better with Scarf Lele, but Lele Arcanine, if you just scroll down the list of Pokemon on the VGC 17 allowed things, there's very few that can take on the combination of Lele Arcanine. You have to basically counter lead with two Pokemon that both threaten the other Pokemon individually while also not dying to the other. So, like, let me explain what I mean here. Let me filter this to VGC 17. So, like, if I lead Lele Arcanine, for example, right? My normal answer to Lele is Celesteela, right? Not with Arcanine there, because then I get Flare List. If I keep scrolling down the list here. My normal answer to Arcanine is like, what's a good example? What's a good check to Arcanine? We'll say, what's a good check to Arcanine? The only one I can think of is Milotic, which we'll take Milotic as an example. I mean, Milotic does pretty well versus the combination of Lele Arcanine, but it's still going to take a shitload from Psychic Terrain Psychic. The thing is, Lele hits so hard with Psychic that most of the things you would use to beat, for example, Arcanine, just get completely annihilated by Psychic. It's just like, I wish I could find an example. I'm scrolling through the list kind of fast, but I guess Feeney's a bad example because it changes the terrain, but also, you can also run Electrium Z Arcanine for that, which is what I normally talk about when I talk about the Lele Arcanine thing. Electric Z Arcanine and Scarf Lele is extremely hard to deal with. Okay, Chomp. Chomp is a perfect example. So normally when you encounter Arcanine, Chomp's a fairly safe switch in as long as you don't get burned by a Will-O-Wisp, right? But that's not the case with Scarf Lele because you just get bopped by Moonblast. I'm not going to keep going with this, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying. He has tons of lead synergy with every one of his Pokemon. Like he's got not slow, but he's got, Lele and Ninetales, which he can set up Auroraville and then just start blasting people with Psychic behind. With Auroraville up, which allows it to live enough hits rather to, get multiple Psychics off. He also has Psychium Z, so he can Auroraville and Psychium Z the same turn and get a kill and set up Auroraville the same turn. I mean, he's just got, it's definitely a very offensive team. That's pretty safe to say. But he just has so much, if you guess wrong on what he's about to do, you just you're so far behind that the battle's almost over right then and there. If you predict him to lead Lele and Ninetales, for example, because you've got, Chomp and one other thing weak to ice, and then he leads Lele Pheromosa while you lead Snorlax. I mean, it's just there's so much there's so many ways that can go wrong for you. There's so many ways that Sajin can just completely annihilate you. I mean, I want to know the story behind his agility Metagross. I get why it's there because you set up agility while you activate your weakness policy. But I can't imagine that's a ton better than just bulldozing and taking advantage of bulldoze. I mean, I guess it's for whatever's in the back, but I guess it's not that Metagross really has anything else to do with that slot either. I mean, it's got Bullet Punch, but you've got Psychic Terrain to worry about. I don't know. I just super, super loved Sajin's team. Marcus's team is also really cool because he's got a Alolan Persian. I'm not really sure what he's doing there. In fact, I'll take a look. He's got Mago Berry, Alolan Persian with Fur Coat, obviously. Fake Out, Taunt, Parting Shot, Foul Play. Okay. That's kind of interesting. I don't know what that does that's more important. I guess it's Parting Shot that you kind of want on the thing. I guess Parting Shot's what makes it really good. I don't know. I never thought that was an entire reason to use it, but I'm guessing it has some other defensive synergy in his team. He also, that reminds me, he also had Normalium Z Tapu Koko with Nature Power, which is super cool because he doesn't have Thunderbolt on this thing. So, with Protect, Nature Power, Volt Switch, and HP Fire, he's basically relying on his own terrain to be able to use Thunderbolt, which is genius in a way because if he, because then you have the option of volt switching out to either reset your own terrain, or you have the option of nature powering and then taking advantage of whatever other terrain is there. You know, Feeny being a great example, because then it gets access to Moonblast, basically. Which, you know, again, with Normalium Z is even better, because then it becomes, you know, Twinkle Tackle or Shattered Psyche if you have some reason to do that. So that's pretty cool. He's also Modest Coco with... what does Modest Coco with 252 speed? Outspeed. I'd expect a more intricate EV spread from Marcus, but I guess that... that must reach some sort of speed tier that I'm not thinking of at the moment. And then Wolf with his Exeggutor. God damn it. Protect Leech Seed Trick Room Woodhammer? Really? Huh. I don't know why he would run Woodhammer over, like, you know, over Giga Drain. Yeah, I was kind of hearing that Wolf's team was kind of jokey anyway. I mean, it seems like a decent team, right? He's got Alolan Exeggutor with Snorlax, Mudsdale, Feeny, Kartana, Arcanine. So, you know, he's got a Trick Room mode and then AFK, basically. I thought his Mudsdale was kind of cool with Groundium Z. He had Groundium Z with, you know, pretty standard EV spread, 172 HP, 196 attack, 12 defense, 124 def. With Protect, High Horsepower, Close Combat, and Sub. It wouldn't be a Wolf team without Sub. That's kind of funny. I don't know what I think about Wolf's team. I'm guessing it was just, you know, he wanted to use Exeggutor, so he used Exeggutor. I can't imagine that there was some, you know, really amazing thing that Exeggutor did. And then you have Agloza's team, which is cool, but, you know, it's Lilligant Torkoal, so, you know, there's only so far that you can go with Lilligant Torkoal. At least as far as, like, because the other thing, too, I remember hearing, actually, what even happened to Alex? I keep hearing, like, did he get cancer or something? Or did his dad get I don't know. I don't want to say anything about that because I don't actually know what happened. I actually asked a bunch of people. Like, I even asked in his stream, and I still don't know what happened, because I know A-Drive was donating his prize money to something that had to do... If somebody listening to this, please explain to me what happened to Alex Agloza, because I know he was really, really sick too. But I don't know if that's because he... You know, again, I don't know if he has... I don't know the story, but I want to know, because he looked really, really, really sick. So someone please tell me what happened with Alex there. Let's see, what else was I going to talk about? Oh shit, I'm already at 37 minutes. Okay, I think I'm going to call this good for now. I think I'm just going to call this the first episode. I think the up and coming episodes will be pretty variable in terms of length, you know, depending on how much there is to talk about. I'm thinking I'm going to shoot for an hour roughly, but I can imagine this being anywhere from 30 minutes to, you know, even up to like 2 or 3 hours, depending on who it is and, you know, how much conversation really happens. Yeah, basically this was the I can't think of the name, the flagship, not the flagship episode, the maiden voyage, if that makes sense. The pilot episode, as we'll call it. But yeah, thank you for listening, everybody. Small plug for myself here. If you like VGC, I do VGC streams. You know, usually 3 times a week. I've got a VGC blog that I'm working on. I'm producing a bunch of VGC YouTube videos as well. Check them out. Aegis Cave on pretty much everywhere. I'll link. In fact, I think I'll actually post this on my blog. I'll probably post it on my YouTube too. So, yeah, just search my stuff if you're interested in my other VGC content, because I'm going to produce a shitload of it, because VGC again is what keeps me sane and alive. So anyway, thank you all for listening. Next episode will be with the Saxlad VGC. I don't know if you guys know him, but he is a mod in the VGC chat room. and also a great player from what I've seen. I've been following his streams, and he's a really cool dude. So that should be a ton of fun. But yeah, thanks you guys.